Many souls move through their entire lives feeling trapped inside a script they never wrote. They work tirelessly, obey the rules, and still end each day with the quiet ache that life is something merely happening to them, as if destiny were a fixed track and their only role was to walk it. But what if that belief, the idea that everything is already written, was the greatest illusion of all? What if the reality you see, with all its limits and conditions, is only the surface of something infinite? For centuries, a deeper knowledge has been hidden, kept out of classrooms, and quieted in common teachings. A knowledge that whispers, "You are not a passenger, you are the creator." And when this truth awakens within you, everything begins to change. Because the moment you remember your power to design your reality, life no longer controls you, you command it. But then comes the real question. Why has this truth been concealed? And how do you rise from being a victim of circumstance to the master of creation itself? To truly answer that question, we must first expose the greatest trap of all, the illusion woven into our very perception. By default, our human experience is confined to what we call the third dimension. This is the physical layer of existence, governed by space and time as our senses interpret them, a linear stream flowing from past to future. From the moment we are born, we're conditioned to believe that only what our five senses can perceive is real. The chair beneath you, the sound of my voice, the glow of the screen before your eyes, all are projections of the third-dimensional field. And within this narrow structure, most people live and die without ever questioning the rules of the game. Our perception of reality is a stunning work of biological design. The five senses, sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste, constantly feed information to the brain, crafting what appears to be a stable world. But the issue isn't the design itself, it's the blind trust we place in it. We rarely pause to question the deeper layers hidden beneath what we can measure, touch, or see. And so, we become imprisoned within a tiny projection of the infinite whole. This illusion quietly traps us in a loop of cause and effect. We see external events, a job loss, a breakup, a financial struggle, as the cause of our pain, our worrying, our despair. We react as if life is happening to us, not through us. Slowly, we surrender our power. We fall into the endless routine of fixing symptoms instead of healing the source, patching the surface, while never realizing we've been chasing shadows in a reality that only mirrors our own forgotten light. This way of living is what can be called automatic mode, the silent autopilot that billions operate on every single day. They wake up and instantly begin reacting to the news, to traffic, to messages, to the world's endless demands, and by nightfall, they collapse in exhaustion, wondering where their energy went. Life becomes nothing more than a string of reactions. The illusion of control hides in the act of trying to manipulate the effects, while the true power to create lies buried deep beneath the surface at the level of pure consciousness. This is the grand trap of the human experience. Operating from this mode steals our sacred ability to act as conscious creators. Instead of shaping the future, we spend our days attempting to repair echoes of the past that appear as our present reality. When your mind is caught in the constant loop of fixing what's already been created, you drain the energy meant to design what's next. The cycle becomes endless until a shift in awareness breaks it. Imagine life in the third dimension as a movie, but one where you're only able to see a single frame at a time. You can't perceive the full story, nor can you edit what's coming next, because your entire focus is locked on what's immediately in front of you. Yet, here lies the divine secret. The entire film, with all its possible outcomes, already exists. Every version of your future is already written in the higher planes of consciousness. True freedom begins the moment you learn how to step beyond the single frame to access the whole reel. But then the question arises, what is this real reality, and how does it intertwine with what we call time? The answer reveals itself in the fourth dimension. If the third dimension is where time appears to move in a straight, predictable line, The fourth is where time exposes its true nature, a vast, living field. Within this field, every moment you've ever lived, every moment you're living now, and every potential future coexist simultaneously. Imagine a reel of film with thousands of frames. The third dimension is you focusing on a single frame, convinced it's the entire story. But the fourth dimension is the awareness that all the other frames exist, waiting patiently for your attention. This means the reality you experience right now is not the only film playing, it's simply the one you've chosen to project. To grasp this truth, begin to see your life not as a single point on a timeline, but as a complete volume, a multidimensional masterpiece already written in energy. What you call the future isn't something you must build from scratch. It already exists as one of many potential versions of your reality. The choices you'll make next week, the person you'll become in 10 years, all of it already lives within this infinite field of possibility. Your task is not to create from nothing, but to select which version you wish to step into. And this brings us to the sacred key. The power to navigate this fourth dimensional field has nothing to do with luck, fate, or mystical privilege. The access point is within you. It is imagination, not imagination as idle daydreaming, but as a sacred instrument of creation. True imagination is the ability to think and feel in alignment with a reality that your senses cannot yet see, but that you know already exists in the higher planes. It is the mind's bridge between what is seen and what is still becoming. Most people use their imagination unconsciously, turning it into a loop of fear and worrying, replaying old wounds or scripting future anxieties. Without realizing it, they're constantly projecting energy into the very realities they wish to avoid. Every thought becomes a selection, every emotion a command, and so they unconsciously reinforce the timelines they least desire. But the moment you awaken to the truth of imagination, everything changes. You no longer drift as a passive dreamer, you become the conscious operator of your own reality. This is the sacred difference. What separates the life you have from the life you long for is not effort, struggle, or the passing of time. It's awareness, that knowing that the gateway to your desired reality already exists within you. The tool has always been yours. What's missing is not power, but precision, the ability to tune your consciousness to the frequency of the reality you wish to inhabit. And that precision begins with how you use your power of projection. Because imagination is not fantasy, it's creation in motion. It's the divine technology through which invisible energy becomes visible experience. The great question then arises: how does imagination project reality? What mechanism allows thought and feeling to shape the very fabric of existence? The answer to that question is the next step in awakening the creator within. The answer is both simple and profoundly revolutionary. The universe is not a separate entity with its own will, judging or deciding what you deserve. It is a perfect impersonal system of reflection. Imagine it as a mirror. A mirror does not question what it shows, it simply reflects whatever is placed before it. In the same way, reality has no personal plan for you. It mirrors, with exact precision, what your consciousness projects. When you realize that you are the projector, not the screen, everything changes. Most people spend their lives trying to polish the image on the mirror, struggling to fix their job, their relationships, their finances, or external circumstances. But true power doesn't lie in the mirror. It lies in the projector. Your individual consciousness dictates what will appear on the screen of your life. And the fuel that powers this projection is something subtle, yet all-encompassing: assumption. The law of assumption is not about wishful thinking or naive optimism. It is a deep inner conviction. An assumption is a mental premise you accept as true, even before your five senses have confirmed it. When you hold the assumption that you are successful, healthy, or deeply loved, the universe responds with perfect precision, reorganizing reality to reflect that inner image. This is not magic, it is a universal law. Once rooted in your consciousness, an assumption begins to exert a subtle yet irresistible influence over every element of your life. It shapes your thoughts, your words, your actions, and like a dimensional ripple, it begins to influence the people and circumstances around you, aligning them to support the reality you are projecting. Obstacles that once seemed insurmountable dissolve, and unlikely synchronicities appear with uncanny precision. The skeptic calls it luck. Those who understand the law of assumption recognize as the unmistakable signature of consciousness in motion. Yet this realization comes with a weighty implication few are willing to face. If all that you experience is a reflection of your projections, there is no one else to blame, not the government, the economy, or destiny. The responsibility for every aspect of your life rests entirely within you. But this is not a prison, it is liberation. It is proof that you hold the power to rewrite your life script, starting with the only thing you truly control, your state of being. And if reality responds so perfectly to consciousness, why do so many still suffer? If the power to create is innate, why does it feel so elusive? The answer to this seeming paradox lies in a profound concept: voluntary forgetting. Imagine it as a full immersion experiment. For the human experience to feel real, consciousness, upon entering this plane, temporarily forgets its own creative nature. It is like an actor who immerses so completely in a role that, for a time, forgets they are only acting. This amnesia gives the journey its depth, its challenges, and its meaning. It is what makes life genuine. If at every moment we were fully aware that we are omnipotent creators of our reality, where would the adventure be? Where would be the joy of discovery, of triumph, of growth? Forgetting is the canvas upon which the richness of life is painted, the condition that allows surprises and challenges to shape us, and that makes free will truly meaningful. Yet here lies a subtle paradox. Though we consciously forget our creative power, the mechanism of creation never ceases. Every second, through unconscious assumptions, habitual fears, and conditioned patterns, each person is actively shaping their future. Human suffering is not divine punishment. It arises from the careless, chaotic use of this immense creative power. Many suffer not due to misfortune, but because, in ignorance, they are actively producing experiences of suffering. The universe does not judge our choices, it simply mirrors them. Act with fear, doubt, or worry, and the mirror reflects fear, doubt, and worry, not cruelty, but perfect faithfulness. It is a system of elegant simplicity. You receive exactly what you project. Humanity's great tragedy is ignorance. So many operate this powerful mechanism blindly, creating by default rather than by conscious design. And to break this cycle, we must first understand what truly drives us. Many philosophies and religions teach that desire is the root of all evil. Yet for those who understand the true mechanics of creation, desire is the very source of life itself. This is the insight we must explore now. Doctrines, whether religious or philosophical, often claim that desire leads to suffering and that peace comes from its elimination. But this is only a partial understanding. Desire is not a weakness to suppress, it is the fundamental engine of reality. Without it, nothing would move. Desire drives us, compels us to seek, innovate, and evolve. It is the master spring of existence. Consider this carefully. The only desires that truly propel you are those that embed themselves deeply, capturing your attention and refusing to let go. Fleeting, superficial desires drift through consciousness constantly, but only those rooted in profound longing hold the power to reshape reality. And here is a truth many avoid. Every desire carries some personal gain. There is no truly selfless desire. This apparent selfishness is not a flaw, it is what allows individual creation to function. Universal consciousness fragmented itself into countless individual perspectives, precisely to experience the joy of desire, seeking, and achievement through each of us. The key to progress and to realizing your dreams lies in radical obedience to desire, not the fleeting superficial kind, but the one that rises from the deepest center of your being and refuses to be silenced. When such a desire emerges, its very appearance signals that a path to fulfillment already exists. To desire something deeply is, on the dimensional plane, the same as already possessing it. Desire is not a search for what is missing. It is proof that what you seek exists as a real possibility, awaiting your conscious selection. The next step is to assume the feeling of the desire fulfilled. This is not pretending or self-deception. It is recognition that, on the fourth dimensional level where all futures coexist, your consciousness is tuning to the frequency of the reality you have chosen. The universe, acting as a perfect mirror, responds with absolute precision, rearranging every element to manifest externally what you are already holding within. Now that we understand the central power of desire, the question that truly matters is not what do I want, but what would I feel if I already had it. This simple, profound question leads directly to the practical method for turning that feeling into reality, the true engineering of creation. What I am about to share is not a mystical ritual, but a technology of consciousness, a precise method of mental engineering. The first step in this process is precision. Vague desires like I want to be happy or I want to be successful will not work, because the universe, like a perfect quantum computer, cannot process ambiguous commands. You must know exactly what you want. Define your goal with absolute clarity. Once that is done, the next, more subtle step is building the scene. Most people make the mistake of visualizing the path, the effort, the process, but in reality, it is the opposite. You must create a single, brief mental scene that implies your desire has already been fulfilled. For example, if your goal is a promotion at work, do not imagine the moment you receive the news in a meeting. Instead, picture a scene weeks after the promotion has been granted. If your desire is a home, do not imagine the loan approval. See yourself months later, hosting friends for a barbecue, feeling the grass beneath your feet. The scene can be simple, yet it must unmistakably show that your desire is already realized. This acts as a dimensional shortcut, because the fourth dimension does not recognize linear time. By focusing on the after, you place yourself in the mental state of someone who has already achieved their desire. This is the secret to releasing anxiety and the feeling of lack. It is the difference between striving to attract something and already living as its owner. The success of this method does not depend on how long you visualize, but on the depth and quality of your immersion. And that immersion depends on a specific state of consciousness, a state most of us have long forgotten. For your mental projection to hold power, it must arise from the right state of being. The most challenging part of this process is not the practice itself, but what comes after. You have made your projection, fully immersed yourself in the scene of your fulfilled desire, and drifted to sleep holding that feeling. Then you awaken to a world that, at first glance, seems unchanged. This is the true test of conviction. The greatest obstacle for most is not lack of power, it is impatience. Impatience is what quietly destroys dreams. The law of creation, like the laws of nature, operates on its own timing. There is always a gap between the mental planting and the physical harvest, and this gap is the measure of your intention. The universe, the mirror of your consciousness, requires time to realign. This is why the practice demands what modern society rarely cultivates: sustained mental discipline without immediate proof. You must learn to live into realities at once. By day, you navigate the three-dimensional world, fulfilling duties and responding to what your senses reveal. Internally, however, you live in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. This is a form of dimensional engineering. The external world will continue to present its apparent limits, and people may behave according to your old version of reality, but you must act as a conductor who hears only the inner melody, ignoring the noise of the audience. Every time the outer world insists that nothing has changed, respond within with calm certainty, knowing that the transformation is already complete on the plane that truly matters. Your ability to sustain this inner vision, regardless of external clamor, dictates the pace of manifestation. This practice is no longer just about imagination, it is about persistence. And it is this unwavering persistence that leads to the deepest revelation of all. If life is a reflection of our assumptions, then every experience, pleasant or painful, is a direct consequence of our projections, conscious or unconscious. There is no room to blame circumstances, others, or fate. We alone are responsible for every detail of our existence. For most, this truth is frightening, for it removes the comfort of passing the blame. But for those seeking freedom, it is the only truth that matters. If circumstances dictated our lives, we would forever be at the mercy of a chaotic, uncontrollable world. But if your inner state is the cause, then the power to change always rests in your hands, independent of what occurs outside. At every moment, we stand at a dimensional crossroads. We can react to the world our senses present, perpetuating past patterns into the future, or we can respond from a chosen state of consciousness, creating something entirely new. The first path is what most follow, operating in reactive mode and reinforcing the endless cycle of cause and effect. The second path is the conscious choice of the creator, one who understands that reality is fluid and that each new experience is determined by the next assumption they make. The universe, what some call the quantum field, responds with absolute precision to your command. But that command must come from you. Expecting the universe to decide your destiny is like sitting in front of a turned-off computer, waiting for it to write your paper. The power has always been in your hands, and you are the one who must press on. But why does society insist on keeping us in the role of victim? The answer is brutally simple. It is infinitely easier to control a population that believes it is a hostage of circumstances. A people who understand their creative power cannot be governed. Our social systems depend on our ignorance, on the belief that we are weak and need intermediaries, religion, government, or economic structures to save us from chaos. That is why true wisdom has always been restricted to small circles, and when it reaches the public, it is ridiculed, dismissed as magical thinking or naive self-help. Learn it. Helplessness, the belief that we cannot change our destiny, is promoted as realism. It is an old trick, but it still works perfectly, keeping countless people on autopilot, creating unwanted realities simply because they are unaware of their choice. The urgency to apply this knowledge has never been greater, not because of some cosmic event, but because every day spent in ignorance is a day creating by accident instead of by conscious design. How many unwanted futures are being selected right now by people who do not yet realize their power? Do not treat these words as mere philosophy or an interesting theory to store your mind. This is ancient knowledge, a precise tool for consciously shaping reality. Transformation does not occur by belief alone, it occurs through application. Everything shared here is an operating manual for your consciousness. The question that remains is simple. Are you ready to take that responsibility? Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, but now. The first step toward freedom is not a grand act, but a small, disciplined gesture. Tonight, before sleep, choose a specific desire. Create a single, short scene that implies its fulfillment. Lie down, relax, and enter the state between waking and sleep. Immerse yourself fully in the scene, not as an observer, but as an active participant. Feel it, see it, hear it, until it becomes real to you. Approach it with the same seriousness as following a medical prescription to save your life, because in truth, that is exactly what you are doing. Do not seek immediate external confirmation. The gardener who plants a seed does not dig it up daily to check its progress. Trust the law as you trust gravity. The three-dimensional world may shout that nothing has changed, But this is your opportunity to prove to yourself that your inner vision's more powerful than external noise.